So the quadratic formula is, the good news with it is you can use it all the time to solve. It is longer, but if you have a factoring problem that for some reason you're not factoring, it doesn't work, you can use quadratic formula, it'll kick out the answers. This is a formula to find the zeros, to find the roots, okay, and to find the x-intercepts, because those are all what? The same thing. We should all be saying that out loud, right? Roots, x-intercepts, and zeros are all the same thing. Okay, so that's what this does for you. Okay, we are going to develop it and kind of go through it. But first, let's go through what they're doing here for review. So first off, it says find the roots of the equation x squared plus 7x minus 18 by inspection. So remember, inspections, factoring when you don't have to use decomp. Okay, I don't have to use decomp because that's a 1. Factors of 18 that add up to 7. What is that? 2 and 9, yeah. So that'd be x plus 9, because the middle is a positive, so the bigger number is positive. X minus 2, they already have the equal 0 there. Okay, I'm hoping this is review for you. Okay, so the 0 would be, for this one, negative 9, positive 2. So these are your intercepts. Okay, again, what we've been doing since lesson 5 of last unit, that means the parabola is something like this. Goes through negative 9, goes through 2. Okay? Questions yet? Okay, find the roots of 6x squared minus x minus 12 by decomposition. Remember, we use decomp when there's a number in front of the x squared. The very first step of doing decomp is timesing the front and the back. 6 times negative 12 is negative 72. Factors of 72 that are 1 apart is 8 and 9. The middle is negative, so I want negative 9. So, now I'm going to go ahead and pair them, or break up the middle. So I got my plus 8x, my minus 9x, my minus 12. And then we group, and we factor by GCF. First one, they have a 2x in common. Second one, they have a negative 3 in common. I'm happy because these match, so that's a factor. And then the two things I pulled outside push together to be a factor. So that's where we're at in terms of it being factored. Give you guys a second to catch up, and then we will do the zeros. Okay, do the zeros here. Remember, you can do it mentally, or you can set what's inside equal to 0 if you don't see it, and solve for x. So minus the 4, divide the 3, that'd be negative 4/3. Add the 3, divide the 2, 3/2. So your zeros for this problem is negative 4/3 and 3/2, or your x-intercepts or your roots, whichever you want to call it. Okay, questions or concerns yet on the review part? Okay, so these are examples of solving when we can factor. Okay, now we're going to look at today. This is why we're learning quadratic formula. So this problem, is it possible to solve the quadratic equation 2x squared minus 8x plus 5 by either above methods? Explain. So we can't do inspection because inspection this has to be a 1 and it's not. Okay. If I try decomp, factors of 10, they get negative 8. Well, if you have factors of 10, you got 10 and 1, 5 and 2. None of those. 10 minus 1 is 9, 5 minus 2 is 3, 5 plus 2 is 7, 10 plus 1 is 11. I have no combinations of 8. So this right here is not factorable. Okay? But it does not mean there's no answers. Okay? What it means is your answers are not smooth numbers. Okay? It means your answers might have a radical in them. Like, for example, this is a number. Like, we need to understand this, and this actually is a good point I probably should have said to people last year. this is a value. 2 plus root 3 is a number. You put it in your calculator, you're going to get something, right? And so that value could be right here. So maybe that's where the parabola goes through. It doesn't go through nice even 4 or 4.5. It goes through 2 plus root 3. Okay? And so that's when we want to use quadratic formula. Okay? Because it's not factorable. Because I can't factor and get that. Okay? We don't have any combinations of root 3s or anything like that with our multiples. Okay? So this is why we're doing quadratic formula, because not every answer is smooth. Okay? But again, you can use it all the time if you're really good at it, if you'd like. It's a little long, but... Okay, so developing the quadratic formula. So this is the proof, that part B. I'm going to skip this for now. Okay, well, we can do this. We're going to do it by completing the square, because if you complete the square, that actually creates the quadratic formula. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So you know how when we were doing the solving after we complete the square, so when we got into standard form, so just for a random example here, when we did this, let's go, we said 0 equals 2 times x minus 2 squared minus 11, right? And we said solve. So you would do what? We add the 11, we divide the 2, we square root, and then we'd add the 2, right? Those are the steps to get x by itself. Well, all those things I just told you to do, the quadratic formula essentially does it. Like it has it all set up so you don't have to do all the steps. It's just one big formula. Okay? So that's where it comes from. Okay? So watch. Let's just do solve by completing the square, and then we'll get to the formula part, which is probably what you just want the formula, I bet. But let's just do this just for practice. So again, let's practice our completing the square. So how do we complete the square? Lesson 5. What do we do? So the first thing I want you to be able to do, or tell me to do, is you should push the 5 kind of away, and you're focused on this group. Okay? Can we complete the square with a number in front of x squared? No, so we need to pull a 2 out of the 2 and the negative 8. So I want to pull a 2 out here. Now I'm here. Now what? Pattern. What do we do? Divide by 2 to the? What do we divide by 2 to? Right, the middle. Half the middle. Half of negative 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. Now we have to balance the equation. What do we do to balance the equation when we pull the number out? 4 times 2, it's a positive 8. So to balance it, we need a negative 8. Good. Okay, so now we have this thing converted. So it's going to be 0 equals 2 times x minus 2 squared minus 3. Okay? So now we add the 3, because we're trying to get x by itself. Divide the 2. Then when you square root, you can write plus or minus. And lastly, excuse me, lastly we add the 2. This is an example of not a smooth number, right? 2 plus root 3 over 2 and 2 minus root 3 over 2. Why is it plus or minus? Because the radical, right? It could be a negative squared or a positive squared because they both end up being positives, correct? But also you got to think about the fact that parabolas generally, there's times where there's one solution, but generally have 2 solutions because there's 2 sides, right? So if you're going to have one over here, there's going to be one on the symmetrical side. So they're going to be symmetrical. So the only time there's one, so let's talk about this really quickly, even though it's for lesson 7. The only time there's one is when it bounces. So your parabola can bounce off of one point. That's the only time there's one solution. What answer did that come from? That comes from this. Let's call this 2. That comes from x minus 2 squared factored, because there's 2 of them. So you get the answer of 2 twice. that means bounce. It means 2, 2. So that's a one solution answer. But generally, we're mostly going to have two answers. Okay, where they're symmetrical and they're going to have one on each side. Okay, and then the other one, there's a third. How many solutions does that have? None. Doesn't cross any. Here's the axis. Does not cross. So it'd be a no solution answer. Okay, those are your three solutions. That's for next lesson, though. All right, so we solved that. So now, this right here is the quadratic formula. So highlight that, circle that. Okay, use it. Okay, you use the quadratic formula from general form. So you need to be in general form to use it. Okay, A, B, and C. That's what all these B, B, A, C, A. They all come from here. Okay, so 2A, okay, would be, for this one, would be 2 times 1. That's a 1. Okay, 4AC, 4 times 1 times negative 1. So you just plug it in. Now, when you plug it all in, it's going to be overwhelming because there's going to be a ton of numbers and things you have to simplify. But I don't think it's necessarily hard. It's just maybe tedious is the word. Maybe there's a lot of different things you can mess up on just with like negative and stuff. So it's more using it efficiently and accurately would be your best bet. Okay, so we're going to do these right here. So it says find the roots of the following equation using the quadratic formula. So we're going to practice using the quadratic formula. So since I've been doing this so long, I have it memorized, and you don't have to memorize it. It's on your formula sheet for your exams, so don't worry about memorizing it. The way I do it is I say, oh, not highlighter. I say opposite of B. That's what that means, negative B. Opposite, so whatever B is, I want the opposite of it. Okay, plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. That will give me my solutions, my X answers. Okay, it's a lot of letters, don't worry, it's okay. You get to use the formula. Okay, so I'm just plugging this stuff in. So my A is right there, that's a 1. My B is right there, and my C is right there. Once I have all that in, they're all going to be numbers now, so letters are going away. You don't have to solve for X's quadratic formula because X is by itself. That's what you're given. Okay, so here we go. All right, so X equals opposite of B, negative 2, plus or minus. 2 squared is 4, minus 4 times 1, times negative 1, all over 2 times 1. So now it's all just numbers. I'll pause for a second. Any questions on that? The thing I want you to pay the most attention to, because the most mistakes happen, or why don't you take a guess, where do you think the most mistakes happen? What do you guys think, just looking at that? There's probably two answers that are good. Oh, no, plus or minus always says plus or minus, so that's always the same. Good guess. Kind of, yeah, this section here is the most mistakes because people mess up what sign that turns into. And what I want you to really get good at, okay, you guys are getting special treatment here because I'm telling you right now, how many negatives do you see? 2. Negative, negative, correct? What's a negative times a negative? You know this is going to be a plus, whatever this turns out to be. People mess the sign up all the time. Okay? So if I made this a negative 1, now how many are there? 3. And 3 negatives makes a negative. So this is going to be minus what's there. Okay? The other place that people mess up is people break down the radical wrong, which we did in Unit 1, so there's really no excuse for that, but that's where people mess up a lot. They don't break the radical down completely. Okay? All right, so focus on that, but we all see that that's a positive, do we? Okay, so here it is. It's negative 2 plus or minus 4 plus 4 all over 2. 4 plus 4 is 8. Can I break down an 8 in a radical? Okay, what's 8 break down to? 2 root 2. But yeah, 4 times 2. So I can bring the 4 out to 2. When you bring the 4 out, it does not jump the plus or minus. He just slides next right inside there. Okay, he can't jump the plus or minus. It's a separate term. Okay, So then we're going to come over here. It's going to be negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 2 all over 2. Now what do you see here? A lot of 2's. That's exactly right. Okay? So this is the part. Remember, we said on the bottom, that fraction part you guys kept messing up. If there's 2 plus something down here, I can't break the bottom up, remember? But if this has a 2 and this has a 2, I can distribute it. I can divide to both of them. So what happens is 2 over 2 is negative 1. 2 over 2 goes away. This is the answer. Negative 1 plus or minus root 2. It's 1 root 2. If you're wondering where this 2 went, 2 over 2 is 1. That's a 1 there, just like 1x. You would just write x, so we just write root 2. Okay? So let me be clear. If you're, like on your task sheet, I did a good job of separating exact values versus nearest tenth. This one they wanted both. So if you're saying, do I have to do this? If the answer says an exact value, yes. This has to be as simple as possible. If it says nearest tenth, you'll get the same nearest tenth from here if you do it correctly. So you'll be okay. Okay, so exact value means fully simplified all the way, using unit 1 stuff. Nearest tenth, if you want to jump the gun, you can get it from right here. Okay, can somebody put that in their calculator? Could you, Wiley, do negative 1 plus root 2, and then Emily, could you do negative 1 minus root 2? And that'll be our 2 answers. And then we'll do the next one. What'd you get? 0.41. Okay, and then what'd you get, Emily? Okay, so 0.41 and negative 2.4. So she got 0.41, so nearest tenth would be 0.4. Any questions or concerns yet? Again, it's just using a formula is the good news. Okay, the bad news is it's just a lot of simplifying. All right, we'll do B here in a second. That's what the formula does. So this is a 2. This, what's that? Yeah. So so this is x equals negative 1 plus root 2 and negative 1 minus root 2, which are these values. Good. Anything else? Okay. All right. So this is going to go away because I want room for the part B. Okay. All right. So this one. All right, Jane. What's my A? My A value. 4. Okay. And Sabrina, what's my B? Nope. Negative 12. Yeah, that's a negative, yeah. And then Claire, what's my C? 3. So that's your A, B, and C. Some people use that for their organization to do that right off the bat to identify them so they know what they're plugging in where, which is helpful. Okay, so here we go. I want opposite of B. So this time B is a negative, so I want positive 12 for my start of my formula. Okay, because it's a negative, negative. Plus or minus square root B squared, that's 144, because it's a positive 144, not negative. Everything squared is positive. Every time this number is going to be positive, no matter what it is. Minus 4 times 3, all over 2 times 4. We have all numbers. All A, B's, and C's have been accounted for. Okay. All right, so I have 12 plus or minus 4 times 4 is 16, times 3 is 48. So 144 minus 48 is 96. Again, that could be calculator work. You don't have to do that mentally if you don't need to. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, I want to see, can we break down root 96? Okay, I know 4 goes into it, but does anything else go into it? Does 16 and 6, is that right? Okay, so 16 and 6. Okay, 16 comes out as a 4, correct? Okay, let's work on this now. This is the simplifying part. What does 12, 4, and 8 all have in common? 4 is the biggest. 2 is correct, but 4 is the biggest. So what is 12 divided by 4? What's 4 divided by 4? 1, and then 8 divided by 4? 2. This is your answer in exact form. Okay. Let's see here. Maddie, can you do 3 plus root 6 divided by 2 in your calculator? And then Jose, can you do 3 minus? Just give me that nearest tenth, please. 4.2 for the plus one. .28. Like 2.7 or 0.27? Okay, so we'll say 0.3 because we have to round the nearest tenth. Okay, 0.3. Okay, questions? Okay, so what we want to do now is on C, what's wrong with C? Correct. It's not complete in standard, and that's because one side isn't what? 0. We don't have a 0 on one side, so we need to get that. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to distribute. I get 12x plus 15, and I'm going to move these over. So I got 4x squared minus 12x minus 15 equals 0. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it. I want you guys to try this on your own so you can see what you get, and then I'll do it here in about a couple minutes. So this is going to go away because I'm going to pause the video. Okay? So everybody got that? So they can start? Okay. All right, so we had that. So my A is 4, my B is negative 12, and my C is negative 15. Okay, opposite of B, so I want positive 12 plus or minus. Negative 12 squared is 144 minus 4 times negative 15, all over 2 times 4. Okay, this calculation here, I saw a lot of you guys got 384. Okay, all over 8. 384 breaks into 64 times 6. The 64 comes out as an 8. Okay, so then we're at 12 plus or minus 8 root 6, all over 8. Okay, a good question from Hannah was, can I just cross these? No, because you still have the 12 that's in the same fraction. So still just keep them, like what do they all have in common? A 4, that's all you need to do. So 4 goes into 12 3 times, 4 goes into 8 twice, and then we're all over 2 because 4 goes into 8 twice. So that is your best exact answer right there. 3 plus or minus 2 root 6 over 2. Okay, Sabrina, can you do 3 plus 2 root 6 over 2 for me? And let's see, Hannah, could you do the minus for the decimal? Negative 0.9 for yours? 6.5? Okay. Okay, what did we get? Did you divide by 2, Sabrina? Try it again. Do 3 plus 2 root 6 and divide by 2, like separately. 3.9? Okay. Gotcha. Okay, 3.9 and negative 0.9. Okay, we got one left. All right. So find the zeros of the quadratic equation, negative 3x squared plus 4x plus 1. Okay, who can impress me? Is this parabola going up or down? Down. Why? The A is negative. Okay, if you don't know that, you need to know that. That's a negative 3. So you see that? That means this parabola is doing this. Yep. And that's why A is the same in standard form and general form. Like that A is the same A. It's not a different A. Okay? So this negative 3 Tells you the parabola is going down. All right, so here we go. So that means my A is -3, my B is 4, and my C is 1. Opposite B, -4 plus or minus square root 4 squared 16 minus 4 times -3 times 1 all over 2 times -3. I have two negatives in my radical, so it's positive. So that means it's going to be 16 plus 12. So -4 plus or minus 16 plus 12 is 28 all over -6. Okay. All right. So -4, we can break the 28 down to 4 times 7. The 4 comes out as a 2. So I get -4 plus or minus 2 root 7 all over -6. You can leave the negatives there if you want. You could go negative over negative because the funny thing is this is plus or minus, so the sign changing up top doesn't matter because they're both the same anyways. Does that make sense? Like this is plus or minus, so I can do this and this won't be affected because it's both signs, so the flip doesn't do anything because it's already both. Okay, so they all have a 2 in common. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's 2 plus or minus root 7. 2 divided by 2 is 1, by 2 is 2, all over 3. 2 plus or minus root 7. Okay, if you don't want to, you don't want to do this, you can still call these this, and you'll still get the same thing, and it's fine. Okay, and that's it for the video. That's all that I'll put on there. Wait until everybody gets that down. All right.